Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the absolute best recordings of the Mozart and Brahms clarinet quintets coupled on one disc. That's the key here. There are so many recordings of these pieces. I have to tell you, we need a little explanation about how we're going to do this one, because every clarinetist in the universe has recorded these works. Quite often they come coupled to either other works with clarinet by the same composer, or occasionally something for clarinet by another composer. But the most popular coupling is to put the Mozart and the Brahms together on one CD, which wasn't possible before we had CDs, but now it is. So, the reason I'm doing it this way is for simple convenience, because if you're going to get one, you might as well have the other, number one. And number two, the Brahms was obviously inspired by the Mozart. In fact, this could be a talk about sequels to the Mozart Clarinet Quintet, although there are lots of other clarinet quintets. And I may do a talk about those at some point. But right now I want to talk about these two beautiful works, which are obviously related in intent, in concept, in medium, even to a degree in style. And although they're related, they are extremely different in practice, in their sound, in technique. It's really kind of interesting. They're related formally. First of all, they're related because Brahms wrote a clarinet quintet. But even the structure of the clarinet quintet with the finale, there's a theme and variations, it obviously refers to the Mozart. But after that, the similarities kind of end. And if you buy a disc of the two of them thinking that the Brahms is like Mozart, only more so, you will be sorely disappointed. I guarantee it, because the Brahms is quite different emotionally. Mozart's clarinet quintet is still the work of a young man. Even though it's late Mozart, it's the work of a young man. There is no late Mozart. I mean, when you only live to be 35, there's no late anything, right? And it is the most beautiful, singing, bel canto approach to writing for the solo wind instrument, because it's Mozart. And Mozart was, first and foremost, a melodist, and one of the great melodists that ever lived. And the music is completely gorgeous, but it's also a major key work. It has its elements of pathos, its occasional elegiac notes. It tends to be a very gentle work, by and large, but it's also a joyous one. The Brahms could not be more different. This is the apotheosis of his sort of autumnal late phase. In fact, he wrote it after he had theoretically given up composition. On hearing, the clarinetist, what was his name? Richard Mulfeld, I think his name was, or something like that. And he was a great clarinetist, and Brahms wrote 3 works for him, at least. And, it is in some ways a very difficult work. I find it difficult. I have to confess. I loved the Mozart the first time I heard it. The Brahms just, I didn't know what to make of it. I really did. First, it bored me. And then I began to listen to it, and I began to get interested. And now I think it's wonderful, but it took time. And so I just want to tell you, it's okay if you don't love it instantly. And if you do love it instantly, you are not better than the people who didn't love it instantly. Everything happens in its own time. But what makes the Brahms so surprising? First of all, it's in a minor key, but it doesn't sound like it's in a minor key. It is constantly vying between the emotions of happiness and sadness, and real elegiac sadness. And really, it's surprising in that way. You don't know where the music is going in terms of its emotional poles, its polarity. It's constantly shifting, and that makes it a difficult work to pigeonhole. You're not sure what's going to happen, and it also means that the ending with the theme and variations, like the Mozart, the ending is shocking because it ends in the minor, which is actually a very Mozartian thing. Most of Mozart's minor key pieces end in the minor, which is quite unusual. But for Brahms, the Fourth Symphony ends in the minor. He does it too. But this one, because it's so constantly shifting between happiness and sadness, when that final minor key chord, I know it's in B minor or something like that, right? Let me just say, yeah, it's in B minor. When that B minor chord hits you, it's a shock. I just think it's a shock. I mean, I couldn't believe it was over. And so a piece that started out boring me wound up making me feel that it was too short, that it ended too soon because I didn't want that minor chord to be the end. It really, really stunned me. And I think that's part of the greatness of the work, frankly. It is emotionally a shocking piece and a very deep piece, a very moving and profound piece. It's not light and it's not frivolous, and it's more than just a showcase for a clarinetist and a string quartet. It really is a remarkable piece. Now that I know it, but you got to know it. You have to keep on listening. This is a piece that I think proves it. So performances of the two, well, they're going to be rather different because the Mozart has its own challenges. The Mozart is challenged by the fact that the first movement is an allegro, but it's usually played, I think, too slowly. It can take a little more energy than it usually gets. There's a tendency, because the melodies are so beautiful, because it's so songful, to just sort of moon all over the place and forget about things like rhythm, which is never a good idea. The Brahms, on the other hand, is extremely, it's Brahms, it's very closely woven in its polyphonic texture. The Mozart isn't terribly polyphonic. I mean, it is because you have a wind section opposed to the string section, right? Like one single clarinet and the string, so you can have opportunities for polyphony. But the Brahms is a very rigorously worked piece, with the clarinet really first among equals. It's always sort of diving in and out of the string texture. And a lot of the music is of a really surprising level of dissonance and austerity. And you need to play it with a great deal of clarity. And it really requires a very, very different technique, I think, than the Mozart does. The high point of the Brahms is the slow movement, which has a central section, it's almost like it's almost a Hungarian sort of gypsy improvisation. It's a fabulous, fabulous passage. But the Mozart is Mozart. It is just glorious, and probably the most popular chamber work ever written that has a clarinet in it, for good reason. I mean, I just love it. Oh my goodness. I was dying to learn how to play it back in my clarinet playing days. And, I couldn't, because every time I tried to play the clarinet, I think I mentioned this, my dog attacked me, which was a sign that I really should quit while I was ahead. So I never got to it. But wow, what a glorious work. Now, I have 10 different recordings here that couple the two works, and there are more. But I'm going based on very, very simple criteria, because I can't cover all of them, and you may have your favorites, which you can tell me, whatever you like. But the bottom line with recording situation is very, very simple. I keep the ones that I like, and I get rid of the ones that I don't. And I have plenty of individual recordings of each work, but I have 10 CDs that interested me enough so that I've hung on to them for whatever reason over the years. Either I liked them or I just forgot that I had them and they accumulated. That's what happens with these things, right? But 10 recordings coupling the two, I think, is more than enough. So these are all recordings that I thought were good. They're all recordings that I liked. There's nothing here that's bad, but there are some that I like better than others, because I went and listened to a bunch of them again in preparing this talk, just to make sure that I wasn't sort of hallucinating, especially because, as you will see, my favorite is quite recent. And I always love it when I can give my highest recommendation to a recent recording, because it means that great performances are still with us, and they always will be. But let's start at the beginning with this one on Seraphim. Remember Angel Seraphim? This one is with the fabulous Gervais de Payer and the Melos Ensemble, right? Members of the Melos Ensemble of London on EMI. Now, in this performance, I think the Brahms is better than the Mozart, because the Mozart, well, it's missing its exposition repeat in the first movement. I don't understand that. Why would you ever want to play the Mozart without the exposition repeat in the first movement? But it's good. I'm running through these quickly. I'm not going to make a whole schlep out of this thing, because it's just, we have 10 of them, and you'll get whatever you want to get. Next was this rather recent one on Foghorn Classics. Who ever heard of that? I mean, it exists, obviously. Foghorn Classics with the Alexander String Quartet, which is a terrific group, and Eli Iban, Clarinet. Here they are. Again, I like the Brahms better than the Mozart. The reason I think the Mozart is a little droopy in the first movement. Just a hair. I mean, we're talking about really minute differences. But again, the performances are quite lovely, and it's on Foghorn. And how many Foghorns are you going to have? So much for Foghorn. Oh, yeah. Well, this one is sort of a classic one. This one is quite lovely. This is with David Schifrin and the Emerson String Quartet on Deutsche Grammophon. Now, it's very, very common to sort of dump on the Emerson String Quartet because everyone says, well, they play very well, but, they aren't too interpretively profound, and they're kind of like Juilliard wannabes, that kind of thing, because they make a fetish out of precision, but they're not so big on expression. I think it's all nonsense, frankly. I think, as usual, people just aren't listening most of the time, but they're a great group, and these are absolutely lovely performances that I can recommend without reservation. I really can. They're really, really good. They're a little bit more lively than the Alexander folks, which I think is a good thing. And so that is that one. Let me see if I can put this away without and actually close the little jewel boxy thing here. Yes, it worked. Okay, after that, what do we have here? Oh, this is on Warner Apex, and it's the Berlin Soloists featuring Carl Leister. We're going to see a lot of him. Okay, so this is the one. There are a few of those with him. This is the one with the Berlin Soloists, okay? Now, the Berlin Soloists know what they're doing. I have said this before. I tend to enjoy string ensembles taken from major orchestras, and, that are not sort of regularly constituted like string quartets. I just like them. I think sometimes, especially when they're making chamber music with their colleagues, there's a certain freshness to what they're doing that's very, very appealing. And this is quite appealing. Also with, what is this? Oh, my goodness. Okay, so this is the one with the Amadeus Quartet. This is a DG Galleria one, and it has Gervais de Paer in the Mozart, and with the exposition repeat, I might add. So if you like Gervais de Paer, you want him with Amadeus better than the Mellos, and Carl Leister in the Brahms. And let's see, let's compare these two. I did this before, but I just want to see, out of curiosity. Let's see, they're very, yes, exactly. The tempi are absolutely almost identical, except in the finale, where this one is quite a bit livelier. And if it's up to me, I go for livelier. I really do. I think it helps, especially in such an elegiac work in the first place. The last thing you want is for it to sag. We don't want sag, especially in the theme and variations finale. There's some peppy ones. They sound peppy. I like this one. This one is also on a label that we don't see too much of. It's Pandora. I think, no, Phaedra. Wrong tragic female whose name begins with a P. There's record labels, named after tragic females whose names begin with a P. So there's Pandora, but this is not Pandora. This is Phaedra, and or as we used to call her, Fred. And who is this? Oh yes, it's Roland Hendricks, clarinet, and the Pinoca String Quartet. Now, as you know, here it is. I love the Pinoca String Quartet, and Roland Hendricks is no slouch either. He's very, very good, but boy, oh boy, do I love the Pinoca String Quartet. One of my favorite groups, as you know, from my Dvorak and Janacek String Quartet talks. So, the Czech String Quartet tradition is just amazing, and they are wonderful groups because they combine beauty of tone with a wonderful approach to rhythm. Rhythm, you hear me, guys? Rhythm and accent. So their music has rhythm and accent. And the music really needs it. I mean, this music can really use it. I'm always taken to, in the first movement of the Mozart, because the tunes are so lovely. I said people tend to play it droopily, but when you think about it, it's got all kinds of subtle accompanying rhythms. syncopations, like in the second subject, where it's going cha 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 cha, the clarinet's going do 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 do. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where you really can remind people that it's an allegro. It really is an allegro, and it sounds like an allegro. That's a good thing. What's next here? Oh, yeah. Again, this is another one of those sort of miscellaneous group ones, but it's quite wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. This is with the Oslo Philharmonic Chamber Players, and I can't even see the name of the clarinetist because it's so tiny. His name is Life something. Let me see if I can get it in the booklet. Oh, let's see here. No, of course not. Why would they make my life easy? Wait, no, his name is in the back. Here we go. Wait, I'm getting there. There he is, Leif Arne Pedersen. Thank you for printing the name in readable type somewhere in this production. Isn't it incredible? I mean, it's not just because I'm getting old and I can't see a damn thing. It really is outrageous on these CD covers. Remember, when they used to print like full album covers reduced to like this, and you had microscopes like, original jackets where you can't read a damn thing. And sometimes the notes were really interesting. They really were. I mean, the notes are very good. This is a very nice booklet, but wow, it'd be really nice to know who the people are. Let's just call it the Oslo Philharmonic Chamber Group. Now, I love, for reasons I can't quite explain, Oslo Philharmonic. It's on LAWO, by the way, LAWO. I love these chamber groups drawn from the Oslo Philharmonic because they have wind soloists. Their wind soloists are great. Absolutely terrific. I've talked about some of their recordings. For some reason, like I said, when soloists from an orchestra get together and do things, I just think wonderful things happen. That's me. I don't know if you've noticed that. I really don't. But even, if they come from the Vienna Philharmonic or the Concertgebouw doing Brahms sextets, or the Berlin Philharmonic, or the Cologne players also doing the Brahms sextets, they're wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, this is one of my faves. I'm down to the last three already. Isn't it great? The last three. This is the Wiener Octet with Alfred Boskovsky. This is a classic. This is on Testament. I just think this is a beautiful, beautiful performance. I love it dearly. It just sounds so Viennese. I mean, it's relaxed but not slack. It has warmth. It has that, they play con amore, they just have love, and it sings, and it's kind of a style that we don't hear so much anymore because, it doesn't fetishize the need to be precise, but it's just lovely. And I think it's on Testament, and, you may want to consider it. Okay, now we're down to my two favorites. Number 2. Here we go. This is really a classics pairing. It's on Supraphon with the Smetana Quartet, Supraphon Archive, with Vladimir Fiha, clarinet. Now, why do I love this? Well, I love it, first of all, because the Mozart Clarinet Quintet is very swift. I mean, surprisingly swift, and I like to hear it that way. I just think it's very different. It was recorded in 1954 in mono, but it sounds quite good. I mean, it's perfectly listenable. And again, it's a performance of the work of a type that you really aren't going to hear anymore. Just with this kind of wonderful, sunny, chambery, I don't know how to describe it, but those allegros are really allegros, and it's great. But what I really love about this recording is the Brahms, especially the clarinet playing of Vladimir Fiha. The Brahms was recorded later, like 65, 64, 65, and it's in stereo. I'm going to play you a bit of one of the quick variations from the finale, just so you get a sense. I love the tone of this guy's clarinet, this fruity timbre, a little bit of edge. Nowadays, soloists, they try and be so pretty. Everything is just pretty. And there's room for a little bit of rusticity, a little bit of, I think, more of a vocal timbre to the tone. It's gorgeous. Listen to this and you'll see what I mean. great, isn't it? Just great. So for the Brahms, particularly, the Mozart is sort of a bonus. That's why it's number 2 on my list, actually, because the Mozart is, first of all, probably a little controversial in its tempi, and also it's in mono, and there's no reason to be in mono. However, my favorite, my absolute fave is, like I said, it's a recent one, a recent recording, and it is hot, 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 I think. The Pacifica Quartet with Anthony McGill clarinet on Cedille. Here it is. Yay! First of all, it is the most beautifully recorded coupling of these pieces that exists, engineering-wise. And that is not a matter of subjective opinion. It just is. It's gorgeous. And the other thing that I just love about this performance is especially, I mean, both performances are equally fine. They're both great, first of all. Neither of them has any weak moments. The Mozart has the necessary energy in the allegro, and I'm going to play you a little bit of it just to show you. And the other thing that this really has, especially for both of these works, I mean, they're very tricky this way, but the Mozart, I think especially, is unbelievably great intonation. I mean, the Pacifica Quartet is one of the best tuned quartets in the business. They really are. And I'm not an intonation guy. I don't have perfect pitch. I can take a lot of sour playing. You know, if I like the performance, I excuse quite a bit mistuned pianos, things like that. They almost never bother me unless it's really, really bad. I mean, I did see, Isaac Stern play the entire Beethoven piano concerto like a quarter tone sharp on that in the concert before they closed Carnegie Hall for the renovations. It was with the Cleveland Orchestra in Dochnady. They did a great Bartok music for strings, percussion, and celeste, but oh God, the Beethoven was painful. I mean, Stern was quite old then. It was his hall. They named it after him. I get it, but it was excruciating. Intonation does matter if it's like awful, but intonation when it's great and you can really hear it, when chords are so beautifully tuned, wow, it gives the whole piece, Mozart particularly, that sense of innocence and purity and freshness. And with the Brahms, which has no innocence and purity and freshness at all, it has clarity. It has this sort of textural, the textural complexity seems to be much more manageable. It never sounds muddy. The voicing is always precise. It really, really helps. And that's not to say that they're shirking anything in terms of emotional expression at all. All of this supports the emotional expression of the music. So I want to play you just the second subject of the Mozart clarinet quintet, the first movement, the big tune, all the way through to the end of the exposition. And you'll hear exactly what I mean. And Anthony McGill, who is a spectacular clarinet soloist, he's another soloist who has, first of all, wonderful evenness throughout his range, no harshness, but also allows himself a bit of oomph to his timbre. There's character there. There's fruitiness. Fruitiness when the clarinet has that. When it sounds like a person. It sounds like somebody with personality and character. I mean, the clarinet can do that better than any other wind instrument, and it doesn't if all you want is just prettiness. But this has that. It has spunk. Oh, it's wonderful. Let me just play it for you. Listen to this. that gorgeous? And the fabulous recording, of course, helps tremendously. So this is my choice for having the two of them together. The Pacifica Quartet, Anthony McGill on Cedille. It is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So that is the story of the Mozart and Brahms clarinet quintets coupled together on a single disc. As I said, there are many more and many more performances still of each of them separately, but there's no reason not to get them together. It saves space, it saves time, it saves money, and you can very easily get superb performances of both. So why not? Go for it, as long as you keep on listening. Thanks, folks. Take care.